We start things off with an in memory of Ted Turner graphic shown on WWE television. And, as far as, I suppose, acknowledgement of Ted Turner, this was about really all we got. But did you even expect this? What were your sort of feelings and reactions to the way they acknowledged Ted Turner?
I think it could have been in very poor taste to do something during the show. It wasn't something I'd thought of until I realized that this show was replete with all these memorial segments for the Gingerbread Man. So to move this all the way to in front of the Now Then Forever signature was probably the thing to do, before the show even really gets started.
Now, in these sort of like in memory, like I guess you could say like graphics boards, even for people who don't get like the whole like video package treatment, they would often put these at the end of the show. Like in the case of like several of their staff members who have recently passed away, that would have been disastrous if it came at the end of this particular show. So yeah, I'm not going to say it wasn't awkward because it was still very awkward to go from this in memory of Ted Turner like board to the promotion of this show long like tease of the Gingerbread Man's funeral. But nonetheless, like this is the sort of dance you enter when you start parodying the concept of death and the concept of funerals, because you could be dealing with it in the very next episode, which they of course did here. So all throughout the show, they are taking us to the, I guess, open casket viewing of the Gingerbread Man. And Sami Zayn, of course, cannot believe any of this shit. R-Truth comes in offering his condolences, saying he sees the resemblance between Zayn and the Gingerbread Man, and this only angers Sami Zayn that much more. More from the Gingerbread Man all throughout the show here as we get clips and highlights of, his place in professional wrestling history. So they show AI-generated clips and photos of the Gingerbread Man in the crowd for big WWE moments like Hogan and Andre, Austin being taken away by the cops, John Cena's first title win. So, I thought they were like keeping it to this. And, we've seen a lot of maybe AI being, I guess, implemented on WWE's, I could say maybe B-level programming recently in AAA, NXT. On the main roster, a lot less so. This, in sort of still photo form, maybe you would consider a bit of a sort of dipping their feet in the water, at least, in this one segment. But what did you think about maybe the use of all of this?
There was a lot of this, and they come back for more sort of iconic WWE moments and inserting like this, as we'll get to the Undertaker's streak ending and Gingerbread Man is there. I don't particularly mind the use of AI for this sort of thing because, it would be better, I guess, if you had a technician with amazing Photoshop skills doing it, but they are stills. It's all rather comedic. And it is just a big gingerbread guy. So having him inserted into this, I don't particularly object to this as AI slop or something that an artist would be better doing, for example, because it's just so stupid to begin with. I'm more interested, Way, in your reaction to any of these, placements of GBM into these moments. Did you find this remotely amusing, or what was your?
Even if it was Photoshop, I don't think I would like find it personally that amusing. I felt like last week in all of this Gingerbread Man stuff, I didn't find it certainly not offensive. In fact, like I might have gotten a chuckle out of it. I didn't really react well to. I didn't react, vocally to much of anything on this particular show. But I know plenty of people did, and plenty of people probably like really found all of this really engaging. I felt like, again, like you, Neil, that maybe like this was perfectly, I would even say, you could say acceptable, usage of AI in maybe like very sort of like short doses without maybe too much, something like on the level of that Soul Kazari video, for instance. But of course they had to overuse it like all throughout. And, several commercial breaks, and then especially later on, as we'll get to in that closing segment. So we get more Gingerbread Man AI images here where Gingerbread Man was present at the Liz and Savage's wedding, the DX WCW invasion, the end of Taker's streak, all building up to tonight's funeral, of course.
I prefer, I will say, like these were fine. I did the picture of him at the end of the streak dressed as Undertaker kind of amused me a bit, but I kind of like the backstage stuff better, the open casket thing, because Sammy is it's like who even are these people here? And I found that funny because that's my thought too. There was all these extras dressed in black, hugging and weeping and stuff, and I did find that kind of amusing. So I thought the stuff in the casket room was funnier than these AI stills.
This is the main event, everybody. It's the Gingerbread Man's funeral here. This is, of course, hosted by Trick Williams here. And, of course, we got the Gingerbread Man in his casket. Trick is dressed in all black. He pours one out on the onto the mat. And this
milk, which is...
Was it milk? Was it milk?
Yeah.
Of course, yes. This is when the music comes on and Trick starts singing with this choir behind him. Can somebody tell me why? Why did the Gingerbread Man have to die? And it's awful as it was meant to be. And then we get into this AI generated montage, probably set to an AI generated song of the Gingerbread Man growing up, going on vacation, going to college, climbing a mountain with Yachty and Trick, going to a strip club with Yachty and Trick, even being the one to take the photo of Trick Williams and Yachty with Paul Levesque in gorilla position when he won the U.S. championship. And coming out of this, the crowd chants, "Gingerbread, Gingerbread."
He's also in space with Yachty and Trick.
Shall we name every photo that they
DJing, playing college football? Well, anyway, a life well done, I think, is what they said at the end of the video.
Right. This is where I feel like they I mean, it was really overboard, I feel. Anyway, what am I complaining about here? They used too much AI for Gingerbread Man, memorial montage. I mean, it sounds ridiculous.
I kind of enjoyed this way. I did. By this point in the show, I was ready to be sports entertained by all of this, like something happening in the ring. And from the singing and, the gospel singers with their sort of chorus of lemon pepper steppers and all, I was enjoying this. I'll put it out there. If you were sitting there stony faced.
I think I was tolerating it,
with your arms folded.
Yeah, I mean, I hate to sound. I feel like I usually be the one on the other end of the equation, and John would probably be in this role. But maybe just like recapping it does something to you, where you just I just don't feel like I've enough time for this low effort bullshit. But nonetheless, I'm probably in the minority because even our good friend John Cena tweeted me. He said, "Gingerbread Man funeral segment of the year." So this might be the one that brings John Cena back. All right. So
let's go.
Shout out Cena here. He was enjoying it. He says the crowd starts chanting Gingerbread, and then this is when Sami Zayn comes out saying enough, and he gets booed. Sami says TV time on Smackdown, closing down Smackdown, being the U.S. champion. That used to mean something. Zayn, I love this. Zayn asks Trick, "How much money did you spend on all of this?" "I counted 1,000 roses. That's a lot of money." "How much did you pay to rent that off-key choir?" He talks about the casket, and clearly, the price of caskets has been much debated in the wrestling world recently. He says this is solid oak. They don't make them like that anymore. And he says all this money spent for what, Trick? To make a joke out of me? Sami says, "I would never do this to you because I have too much respect for you. I'm a working class hero who respects these people, and I represent them. I represent my ride or die fans until the end." And at this point, the crowd starts chanting, "Whoop that Trick, whoop that Trick." Zayn says he's been here with the best. He's 20 years in the game. And Zayn admits that Trick did get under his skin, but now it's personal and it's not just about the U.S. title. So tomorrow he's going to make a joke out of Trick and he's going to expose and disrespect him tomorrow. And this is when Sami cheap shots Trick Williams. He starts holding the U.S. championship high. Out comes the Gingerbread Man out of his grave, out of his casket, and he exposes himself as Little Yachty. Little Yachty with a candy cane who comes out and attacks Sami Zayn. Trick shot is delivered to Sami Zayn, laying him out, and the crowd reacts well to all of this as Trick Williams and Yachty stand tall to close the segment and this edition of SmackDown.
I did enjoy the fact, because we didn't see Gingerbread Man's face until this moment, that when he sat up, it had sort of X's over the eyes to denote that he was dead, which I kind of enjoyed. I like this, and I will say though, like if you're a logic fan of logic, you're going to be completely with Sammy on this. Like, this is a guy in a costume, not a real person. And everybody from the announcers, Joe Tessitore, Nick Aldis, all those people backstage, Kathy Kelly outside the medical room last week, have been gaslighting Sami Zayn. It's not just Trick and, spending a bit too much money on an oak casket he didn't really need. So if you're into trying to dissect the exact logic of this, you'd probably be with Sami Zayn. It's like, what are these people trying to do to this?
I'm not looking to dissect the logic, and I don't know. I feel for anybody who is trying to do that. There is no logic to be had. I mean, well, the logic is that this is all a joke on Sami Zayn. Everybody is in on the joke on Sami Zayn because he's the nerd. He's the geek in all of this, and it's way more fun to be like with the cool guy and playing along with the cool guy. I guess I respect it. I respect Danhausen. Like I respect like really a lot of things that I think are fun and like good parts of the show, and maybe not for me, but I also acknowledge that this is something that is probably really helpful for this feud and probably helpful for the match itself, which will probably receive a great reaction. And I think this was a great way actually to build to the match for tomorrow.
I agree. I agree with that. I'm sorry that you didn't find it as funny as look, let's be relative about this. I was not rolling on the floor and having to grasp my sides with laughter, but I was thoroughly entertained, particularly by the final segment. I'll agree with you that some of it was the fact that it was interspersed, the show was interspersed so much with this, was maybe a bit much, but I thought that as a main event segment, and Sammy in particular, just being kind of the voice of reason, to say that, how much all of this cost and that TV time used to mean something and all the rest of it. I kind of like that, the fact that he's speaking something that really we ought to agree with. But when he talks about his ride or die fans, all he gets is booze. So I don't know if a crowd as unreactive as tonight's were could get up for this, then, I think it did the job. And I don't think it's harmed Trick Williams at all, because I've seen some talk about that this sort of denigrates the character of Trick Williams in some sort of way.
I don't think it does that at all.
I don't think so either.
I think they found actually a strong way to straddle the line between like somebody who is clearly a babyface now, but I think like still has an edge, about him, in that like he's like The Rock, you like him not because he's, I don't know, virtuous or moral even, but because he's cool. And because he's cool when he's making fun of other people. And I feel like they've done a good job of that. He's still a guy who cares about his money first and foremost. And he's also incredibly entertaining when he's making fun of the nerd. So,
and the fact that he's got so much charisma, he can sing badly and, go around saying, that he's had better days, to Aldous when he arrives and feigning all of the heartache over the death of this mascot. Yeah. I think just speaks to what a great performer this guy is. He really is excellent.
This felt like the type of segment very much like, I think in the same vein as, like a Rock, This Is Your Life, sorry. Yeah. Or, and like, whatever, like your big sort of like Attitude Era stunts with like a big set dressing and a big reveal. And I thought they nailed it with the Yachty reveal. I just feel like I could only imagine what those segments would have been if AI was present, at a time. I think things would be very different.
If the Post Wrestling Cafe were to undergo a drug test in the month of May, we would be testing positive because we are overloaded with content. We are going to be reviewing Hulk Hogan, Real American, all 4 episodes this month. Plus, we will go inside the Manosphere with a review of the latest Louis Theroux documentary. We will also have coverage of the Ronda Rousey-Gina Carano fight, also taking place on Netflix. Rewind Away tackles WCW Super Brawl 2, and we cover NXT TakeOver Brooklyn from 2015. All that, plus all of the XL editions on a weekly basis, Collision Course, Daredevil Born Again, and so much more. It can all be yours at postwrestlingcafe.com. $8 gets you in the door.